Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. Crypto Insight here posting this. We have seen an impulsive wave one from XRP, and I think we all experienced that last week with that pump after Judge Torres's verdict until we clear the box labeled resistance below. So you guys can see that up here. We are still in our corrective second wave. This wave could pull all the way back to the box labeled support, so just down in here. We are consolidating, though, for another leg up. As you guys can see, eyes on for a break. So wanted to thank Crypto Insight for posting that. Just, taking a look at this chart here. Now, he posted this yesterday. Of course, we are seeing much more activity on the chart since yesterday. And I was discussing this in the video the other day. Breaking through this level of resistance is going to be critical, guys. And this zone is demarcated anywhere between 72.5 cents to anywhere up to 94.5 cents. Now, that's ultimately the price that we have to break through. And so, in the meantime, we are, we did dip down below that level for a little bit there. It was getting a little dicey. We have moved up back into that zone. XRP did start trading upwards of near 79 cents there for a while, then came back down. But as you guys can see here, now this is the 5-minute, by the way. So I'm looking at this at a very micro level. We did dip down. You guys can see did bounce right back off 72.5, and now it's back up to about 74.2. So here's where we are for XRP at this moment in time. And guys, this again could play out for a while. Taking a look at the XRP chart here on the daily. Let me just, this is the daily. Let me just zoom in there on the daily. And you guys can see that in there. The daily trends are actually looking quite good here. Actually, let's put it on the 4-hour because you guys can see there how that is really holding up. Although we did see this big dip down, we are still seeing positive buying pressure. We are still seeing active buyers wanting to continue to purchase XRP. And, this did spur on some FOMO the other day. We did see many cryptocurrencies rally to the upside. I know many of those cryptos have since come back down over the weekend. Let's take a look at some of these real quickly. Crypto market cap now down a little bit over the last 24 hours, so down 0.77%. We've got the 24-hour volume, though, up a bit. In the last 24 hours, the market has remained relatively flat. Some of the coins that were performing a little better have taken a bit of a bigger hit. So we got the list of coins here, but most coins just kind of settling out now in their positions. That said, though, Raoul Pal has predicted an imminent parabolic rally for crypto. He says the Fed is creating a crisis to monetize U.S. debt. So, according to Powell, the macro backdrop suggests that the crisis is coming and that the Federal Reserve will have very little choice but to come in and introduce bailout packages. What's interesting is it's a similar kind of setup from the 2015-2016 cycle. So we got a similar structure in a similar market with regards to crypto. Okay, 2019 was a bit weird because we had this big correction over all of 2019 after a huge run. To begin with, 300% up, and then a big correction down, and then we went parabolic. I have a feeling we might go parabolic earlier because I think we're getting closer to a banking crisis within the regional banks that will require the Federal Reserve to step in. Interest rates are getting out of control, so interest rates going up and the yield curve inverted. Bad news bears for the banks. He says this crisis will give the Fed an excuse to reverse its hawkish stance and provide the government with liquidity to pay for its massive national debt. The quote goes on to say, maybe that's the reason the Fed is tightening rates even further, is to create a crisis so they can cut rates, so they can monetize the debt. Because if they don't, they have to print more money because the interest rates are higher to pay for the debt payments, and that becomes a total catastrophe. The key point, though, liquidity is up. So perhaps this could cause an imminent crypto rally. He's, saying the setups are, similar to what we saw back in 2015, 2016, which if I were to bring the Bitcoin chart here, just way back 2015, 2016, it was this rally here. So let me clear some of that. Or no, sorry, this was what am I talking about? That's 2019, 2015, 2016 was over here. So after that downturn, of what we saw back then, which was about 86%, 86, 87. We did see that double bounce, boom, boom, and then the market just basically started to rally from there. So since mid-2015 all the way to the height, by the end of 2017, we had seen the top and then another collapse. And so economic uncertainty played a big role in this. And what he's saying is, we could be seeing something similar today. Crypto trends are looking very robust, despite this uncertainty in the market, despite a looming catastrophe, interest rates, right? So it could all be spelling a perfect storm. Wanted to thank Michael for posting that. I also just wanted to mention real quickly, guys, that for my patrons, if you guys are subscribed to the Patreon, I did finally get into that trade. So I don't know how many of you guys saw it. I posted it last night, close to 8:39 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I don't know how many people actually saw that post. I figured, though, I'd get into that pick when the price was good. And good news for you guys who maybe missed it, the particular coin that I just got into is actually trading a smidge lower than when I got into it. So I'm going to be updating my patrons today on that coin, why I chose it. I just wanted to post the trade video yesterday just to kind of get it out, to make sure you guys saw it. So for only $5 a month, you can follow me to patreon.com/workingmoneychannel. Don't want to spend too much time on that, guys, because we got a lot going on today. Fox business anchor Charles Gasparino finds himself in the crossfire of XRP supporters. So Charles is, not really in the business of making friends in the XRP community. He dubbed us a cult. In a series of tweets, Gasparino described his tumultuous relationship with the XRP community, portraying it as a challenging yet thrilling part of his work. He was saying here, when I was writing positive things about Ripple and XRP, I was revered as a hero, but when I report things they hate, I'm public enemy number one. The larger context of Gasparino's run-ins with the XRP community is Ripple's ongoing legal battle with the SEC. But now that that has cleared, Charles Gasparino, it just seems like he's still not letting up. And I don't quite understand why he's trying to pick fights with the XRP community. It's not like we already don't have a bunch of morons we have to deal with. Digital Asset Buy here posting this. Bitcoin Maxi's gone wild. Tony Vase, he says he thinks Ripple could go out of business. Now get this, okay? This is how the Bitcoin Maxis are spinning the Ripple win. And, this is important. We've got to pay attention to this to a degree, I think, because when you hear this nonsense and this logic, well, maybe you should hear it for yourself. Listen to this.
If the company goes down, the token will go down anyway, which would actually prove the thesis that it's a security.
I agree. Right. Well, again, like the only way, and Joe is listening in. Joe, I would love for you to chime in. So the only way is first of all, the SEC is going to try to appeal. I don't, in my opinion, they're probably not going to be successful, but they're going to try to appeal that the two parts that they lost. And if the SEC is able to, go after Ripple the company for $700 million, and they're able to prevent Ripple the company from selling more tokens, and they're able to prevent the founders from selling their personal billion-dollar wealth in the tokens, then Ripple the company may not have $700 million to pay back the SEC.
It's not 700 million, Tone. It's not seven. They did 728 million in sales, and I think the actual profits are something like 2.5 billion. So disgorgement would be any ill-gotten gains. So it's the original sale plus any profits. So I think it's closer to 2.8, 2.7, somewhere there.
Profits by Ripple the company.
Correct, sir.
Okay, but here's the thing, right? But since there were no victims, how is the SEC going to be able to,
No, there are victims.
Where's that money going to go?
There are victims. The victims, ironically, were the institution, in the eyes of the SEC, and don't shoot me, I'm just giving you the SEC's narrative. They're the victims, ironically, are not retail who bought through programmatic sales, because Judge Torres found that retail didn't know they were buying from Ripple, the company, and the blind order books through the programmatic sales. The victims in this case, according to the SEC, would be the institutional investors who purchased it early on and had that expectation of profit based on the documents that were given to them. So effectively, they purchased unregistered securities. So those are identifiable.
But they all pretty much made money, right? So when you say victims, right, according to the SEC, you're a victim. It's kind of like, hey, you're a victim because some guy handed you $100 bill, and that was
correct.
An illegal handover of $100. So where's the money going to go if the SEC is able to go after the $2 billion?
So in the event that victims are not truly identifiable or viable, as repayment, the money goes back to Treasury.
So the money goes back to Treasury. You can hear, though, Tony Vase, his nonsensical approach. It doesn't even sound like he knows what the heck he's talking about here. Clearly these guys have not followed the case as closely as we have. But again, just Bitcoin maxis trying to convince each other that, Ripple is still in trouble, that the SEC won, there's a lot of this now going on because of the positive verdict. It was all kind of like, and I'm not saying these guys particularly, but I felt like, there was a bit of a change in the atmosphere where, at first it was like, yeah, let's root for Ripple. And now that Ripple's finally won and when we've finally gotten clarity for XRP, these guys are now kind of scrambling and saying, well, it's not a complete win and, blah, blah, blah. Still trying to convince their maxi friends that XRP and Ripple are in trouble. Anyway, we've got to just look at the facts, guys. Nick here posting this. 7 days before FedNow launch, the same day BlackRock says crypto will transcend international currencies due to global demand. The Fox headline, remember that? Fed looking into possible digital dollar with Ripple XRP logo behind it. Also, Swift announces that they are piloting instant payments across currency zones. So all this is happening right now, and Nick is saying, how crazy is the timeline for the Ripple case? Let's also not forget, and I don't know, maybe this was missed by some of you guys from yesterday, Mr. Poole posting these two tweets. Fojack here retweeting this out. So the screen grabs from just yesterday. Clearly we can see that this is BlackRock. And for those of you guys who might not know, this ship here is part of the Vanguard logo. So from High Vibe here on Twitter, all of a sudden, BlackRock and Vanguard and others are full steam ahead, 100 miles per hour into crypto. As you guys may have seen this image from before, this is from a presentation. I don't remember from how long ago, but the connections here to Ripple, we have Vanguard and BlackRock right here in the middle, and then all those other banks connected to these companies. You can see some of them: MoneyGram, Alphabet, BNY Mellon, MUFG, SBI, we got R3 down here, CME Group, Accenture, Santander, PNC Bank, Temenos, and guys, just take a look at it. They all connect to Ripple in some way, shape, or form. So it's interesting. We did get the narrative. You guys remember that clip from Larry Fink from the other day saying, essentially crypto full steam ahead. And, it is interesting that now we're seeing Mr. Poole also tweeting out BlackRock, Vanguard. And if we remember back to this presentation, it looks like this is all falling into place. So some of the other questions that have been being asked: is the SEC going to appeal this? And to be honest with you guys, the XRP community has mixed reviews on this. John Dean did recently sit down with Fox Business. Listen to this.
A monumental victory in the world of crypto over the SEC after a 3-year court battle. A federal judge ruling that Ripto tokens sold to the public are not securities. Joining me now, crypto law founder John Deaton to react. And John, let me just look a little bit here. Just share a little bit of what Judge Annalisa Torres of the Southern District of New York sort of issued here. That when Ripple sold XRP to institutional investors in over-the-counter trades with due diligence and investment agreements, it was a quote-unquote investment contract, and so a security offering. When Ripple sold XRP to retail investors on exchange trades anonymously and with no disclosure, that it was not an investment contract, so not a securities offering. So it doesn't necessarily feel like there's clarity here, but the world of crypto is treating this as a major victory.
It is a major victory. But first, I had to be here, Charles, in person in studio with you because you're one of the few that have told this story from the retail investor.
Thank you.
Other channels don't, and so I'm here to thank you for that. Monumental victory, and it's good news for Coinbase. Basically, what we fought, the 75,000 XRP holders that challenged the SEC, we were saying, listen, you can't expand investment contracts to people on exchanges where there's a blind bid and ask. How do you rely on the efforts of someone you don't know is selling you the token? And that's what the judge did. She said direct sales by Ripple to hedge funds, they were relying on Ripple and it was more like an investment contract. Mm-hmm. But when you go on an exchange, and the buyer on the exchange doesn't know who's selling, it's a blind bid ask situation, how do you rely? And so all she did was apply the law, and we won. Huge victory for crypto. When I was on your show, I wore my XRP shirt. I'm wearing my entire crypto shirt, right?
You got the whole fit there, my man.
Because it's good news for all of crypto. You know what I mean?
But the story's not over, is it? I mean, we know Gary Gensler, for whatever reason, I feel like he's been talking out of both sides of his mouth from the very beginning of this. And particularly, look, before he was in this job, he, as a professor, seemed like he had a whole different take on this, looked like he was more embracing of it. I'm not sure if it comes with the job that you have to sort of, I don't know what went wrong, but he has become sort of like Captain Ahab and crypto in general, but specifically this case feels like Moby Dick.
Absolutely. But just think of this. In 2018 at MIT, he said 75% of the market are commodities. All of a sudden, he becomes SEC chair. Elizabeth Warren, his pal, goes on this anti-crypto agenda and campaign, and all of a sudden, everything's a security except Bitcoin.
Okay, guys, I'm going to just stop it there. Summing up what was going on here, and, John Deaton was of the opinion that he thinks the SEC could still appeal. Now, I'm going to get back to that clip in a second. Anthony Welfare here, though, posting this. Ripple says U.S. banks will want to use XRP cryptocurrency after partial SEC okay. Asked whether the ruling meant the American banks would return to Ripple to use its ODL product. And Stuart Alderati says, I think the answer to that is yes. So, even if we are still kind of a bit in a gray zone, we are still getting enough clarity clearly from banks, American banks, saying they want to use XRP. Wall Street Bulls here also saying this, breaking news in the U.S., a whopping 4,096 commercial banks and 576 savings and loans associations holding a colossal $23.7 trillion in assets are now ready to harness the power of Ripple's ODL and XRP for real-time cross-border settlements. Even FedNow is using XRP for domestic settlements. We're witnessing a revolution in financial transactions. Now, I don't know if FedNow is, in fact, using XRP for domestic settlements. That I don't think is confirmed. However, this is breaking news, guys, as of today. Okay, July 17th, Ripple says U.S. banks will want to use XRP. Stuart Alderati has confirmed this. As I said just a minute ago, Alderati says, I think the answer to that is yes. Ripple also uses blockchain in its business to send messages between banks. Here's another quote, guys. I think we're hopeful that this decision would give financial institution customers or potential customers comfort to at least come in and start having now the conversation about what problems they are experiencing in their businesses, real world problems in terms of moving value across borders without incurring obscene fees. Hopefully this quarter will generate a lot of conversations in the United States with customers, and hopefully some of those conversations will actually turn into real business. Ripple now sources most of its business from outside the US, with Alderati previously telling CNBC, Ripple, its customers, and its revenue are all driven outside the US, even though we still have a lot of employees inside the United States. But the big thing here is Stuart Alderati saying, now that we've got the go-ahead, all those companies, all those banks that were once on the sidelines. I mean, Bank of America was one of the ones that came out and said, we will use Ripple's products once we do have clarity. But I'm sure there was a lot of banks on the sidelines that still had not confirmed, or maybe they had confirmed, but they just kind of wanted to sit back and maybe not make it as public. But now they can go in and say, yeah, we're ready to use ODL. Stuart Alderati has now confirmed that, guys. So again, this is just the beginning. And, to this point here, a list of things, a perfect storm are occurring in which we are going to see hopefully meaningful XRP utility in the coming months. So what does that mean, guys? I think what it means, 72, 73 cents, whatever XRP is trading at the time of this recording, 74 cents. As of the time of this recording, let me throw it back on the 5-minute. We are still doing fairly well. We have not completely dipped down. Boom, right back down here to back to 47 cents, give or take. So we are still maintaining this higher level up here, guys. That's all positive news. Something else that I think we should be looking forward to is that Congress is now pressed even harder to pass crypto laws following this SEC Ripple ruling. This one courtesy of Ian Binns here on Twitter. So just to give you guys a sense of what's happening in Congress following the ruling, the SEC versus Ripple case regarding XRP, a number of U.S. lawmakers have called on Congress now to pass legislation to regulate crypto and uphold the court ruling. So considering all eyes were on the SEC case, now Congress is getting pressed. The chairman of the House, Patrick McHenry, and the chairman of the House Agricultural Committee, Glenn Thompson, issued a joint statement on Friday regarding the Ripple SEC case ruling and the need for legislative clarity in the crypto ecosystem. Here's what they said. The decision underscores the need for Congress to provide clear rules of the road for the digital asset ecosystem. It's misguided to think otherwise. The rules give large institutional investors greater protections than everyday Americans. Outcomes like this are what happens when regulators force courts to make policy instead of Congress, the lawmakers said. They proceeded to urge Congress to pass a bill that introduced the focuses on market structure legislation. Our comprehensive market structure legislation will give all investors, customers, and market participants the same long-standing protections found in traditional financial markets, the lawmakers stressed, emphasizing the decision also recognizes what Republicans have said all along. There is a limit to the SEC's reach. According to the court, digital assets may not be inherently securities, but can be offered as part of an investment contract in certain circumstances, which our legislation acknowledges. So, Congress is being pressed, and that is a good thing. Back to the lawsuit, back to the appeal, and the chances of an appeal. Namoon Lambo was talking about Ripple paying the fine, and he essentially said, as far as I know, I haven't found a single XRP holder that cares if Ripple pays a fine. Bill Morgan here responding to that. I think we all expected a fine for Ripple. I do care if ODL sales stand as being investment contracts because that category of sales is least like an investment contract, but I recognize on the surface that it impacts on Ripple and not XRP holders. However, XRP was designed for fast, cheap payments and the transfer of value. I think the sales to ODL customers facilitate this. So it is a concern the judge lumped them in with institutional sales as investment contracts. People are missing this. And so, yeah, I mean, there are still portions of this lawsuit that still have, yet to be resolved. And so are we going to get an appeal from the SEC? Some are saying no, some are saying yes. Digital Asset Buy posting this. Losing an appeal would risk the SEC's entire enforcement agenda. He was retweeting out Catherine Hahn's tweet here. Some non-legal advice musings on the Ripple decision. Number one, the court drew a reasonable line, and overall, it's a good outcome for the industry. For other suits with the SEC, we believe the Supreme Court's major question doctrine will play a larger role, further strengthening the industry's arguments. I've long said that if Congress doesn't act, then courts, not the SEC, will have the final word. The system takes time, but I believe more decisions like yesterday's are coming and will provide more guidance. That said, the complexity of the court's reasoning here is more proof that it would be most appropriate for Congress to set the policy for the future of this technology in the United States, of course. And regarding the SEC and an appeal, okay, guys? So non-legal advice, however, she says anything is possible, but an immediate appeal seems unlikely, both because the agency would have to ask the court to split the decision from the portion going to trial, and because I'm skeptical the SEC actually wants legal clarity. The commission benefits from the current confusion, and losing these issues on appeal would jeopardize its entire enforcement agenda. So I'd be surprised if the SEC tried to appeal now. Guys, the SEC has got a lot on the line, and they do not want to mess up even further. I mean, I think we all know that they've messed up enough already. Jeremy Hogan here also mentioning this. I see a lot of questions about the Ripple SEC appeals. Here are his thoughts. Disclaimer, I hate appeals because that means I lost, but I have done a few. First, timing. Most appeals happen after the case is completely finished, which the Ripple case is not. After the final judgment is entered, either party has 60 days to appeal. We don't have a final judgment yet, so an appeal of Judge Torres' order would be an interlocutory appeal. As far as I can see in the rules, you have 10 days to notice an interlocutory appeal. An interlocutory appeal is rarely granted, and when it is, the normal situation would be where allowing discovery would let the cat out of the bag, i.e. when the Hinman emails were ordered published. That was a type of a thing an interlocutory appeal might be granted for. If Judge Torres herself thought her ruling was so controversial or out there that it needed immediate review, she could have certified it for review to the appellate court. She didn't do that, which is another indicator such an appeal might not be granted. So interlocutory appeals are not automatically granted and not often granted, and you don't have the right to them, but you do have the right to a regular appeal, which could take place here after the trial and post-trial motions next year after a final judgment is entered. So Jeremy Hogan saying, it's not really likely, and if it did happen, it would take a long time. So will either party appeal? Why or why not? Most attorneys I've seen think the SEC will appeal. If I had to guess, which is what we are really doing, I would bet neither side appeals. So Jeremy Hogan saying, each side is going to take it for what it's worth. First, appeals are difficult to win, as it's Judge Torres who reviewed the whole record. Second, the SEC has more to lose than gain by appealing. So also note that, guys. Again, similar to what Catherine Hahn said here, the SEC has more to lose than win. So if it wins the appeal, it pulls back some adverse trial level case. But if it loses at the appellate court level, now every court in the second district must follow the decision. They could literally turn a molehill into a mountain. And do they want to risk that? Well, that would be crazy, wouldn't it? Ripple probably won't appeal if it can pay the fine and if the ODL part of the ruling doesn't mess up its business, which factors all point towards no appeal for me. Plus, Ripple won, and only losers appeal. Sorry, couldn't hold that back. Finally, the SEC might have a problem getting to the secondary market sales part of the argument on appeal, which is really the problematic part of it because of how the judge couched her ruling, but I haven't solidified my thinking on that, so I will stop there. So, according to Jeremy Hogan, chances are they will not appeal. However, Some lawyers are suggesting they might. So according to Jeremy Hogan and Catherine Hahn, no appeal coming from the SEC, although some other lawyers do think they could. It certainly would not bode well for the SEC if they lost. XRP still holding up in the meantime. And I think once we do see more banks jump on board to XRP, this is going to create more FOMO, guys. We've already got the word from Stuart Alderati saying American banks are likely going to jump on board now. So another leg up for XRP, hopefully coming very, very soon. That's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.